Broad Street Review podcast is an extension of Broad Street Review, Philly's home for arts, culture, and conversation, an online arts and culture journal covering the greater Philadelphia area. I'm your host, Darnell Radford. Today on the podcast, we talk about the musical Rent, as its farewell tour, delayed by the pandemic, finally reaches Philadelphia. I meet with 16-year-old June Kaplan-Mayer and mother Gabrielle to talk about its generational impact over the years. Here is my interview with the Kaplan-Mayers for Rent by Jonathan Larson. Welcome to the podcast. I'm your host, Darnell Radford, and today I am in the virtual studio with Gabby and June Kaplan-Mayer. So welcome to the podcast.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you. Thanks, Darnell.
So this interview is a little bit different. Instead of talking about a show with artists attached to a show, we're talking about our love of a show, a production that's making its way to Philadelphia. It is the farewell tour, the 25th anniversary of Rent, which is coming here to the Merriam Theater, and I'm here with Gabby and June to talk about that. Tell us a little bit about yourselves.
So I'm June. I'm 16. I'm in 10th grade, and I've always loved musical theater and music. I've done theater as a kid. I like playing villains, I gotta say. I'm just like, that's just kind of like me. I have like a deep voice, and usually when I do theater, they like me to do those characters, but I'm in love with like all characters in theater, and I usually like sing like just musical soundtracks. I put them on like loop on my headphones, like when I'm on the way home from school on my bus, I'm just listening to them, and I don't know, I really like musicals. I especially like Jonathan Larson musicals, and I watched Tick, Tick, Boom, which is pretty good, and I've come to love Rent because I watched it over winter break, and I just fell in love with it. Like, I love learning about new musicals. Not every musical is going to be good. I gotta say that. Like, not everyone's going to be good.
Wait, June.
But it's definitely really good.
Wait. I just start now. I'm hopping in as the mom here to say June, is of the generation that grew up with Hamilton. So, as a musical theater fan, I was introduced to Hamilton from June. Yes. For many car trips, we listened to Hamilton. We all got into Hamilton from June, which, of course, is such an amazing musical. But Rent was from my day. Yeah. I was in my mid-20s when Rent was originally produced. And so when, as June said about, I always call it wrong, Tick, 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 Boom?
Yeah.
Tick, Tick, Boom came out. I was really excited because I felt like, that's a way for me to introduce Jonathan Larson to June. And then we watched it together and really liked it. And that was actually our gateway to Rent. So it for a kid who grew up loving Hamilton as probably like the first, one of the major musicals of your lifetime that came out in your childhood, through that film, I got to then introduce you to something that was really important from my young adulthood.
Yeah, I could definitely tell that it was like older set because I feel like New York looked different. Like New York doesn't really look like that anymore. Yeah. And I could tell, I was like, this is definitely like going back a bit before my time. And I think it's interesting when I watch musicals like that. Like I watched Les Mis, it was kind of like, it's definitely a different story set. Like this is not something you see every day, obviously. Yeah. Well, it's Les Mis, but I don't know, it's just like seeing stuff from a different generation that my mom knew, and now she's showing it to me. Like I just fell in love with it. Like sometimes you gotta trust people who are older than you.
Wiser.
Yeah, there you go.
Jonathan Larson did usher in sort of a new genre of musical theater, much like Sondheim did prior to that.
Yeah.
He wanted to create music he wanted to create a musical that was more inviting to the generation that was coming up. And, it was edgy when it came out. It spoke to us at that time. I will tell you, so when it was on Broadway, I was probably a junior in high school, and I had some friends who were definitely obsessed with it already. I'm like, how do you even know what's going on beyond the walls of our school? I was in the drama club when I was in high school. My first musical was Fame, actually. I didn't think I had an interest in musicals, up until Rent. And Rent, there was just something about it where it didn't feel like whatever I thought it was I didn't like about musicals. But this spoke to me because just the music and the style, the colors, all the costuming was very bright, vibrant, but also this juxtaposition of the scenic design was sort of edgy and gritty like New York is, even down to the logo of Rent. It's that stencil that you would see on the partitions that are put up when they're doing construction, when they're putting up a building in New York. So all that whole style just really resonated with me. I had a friend, I was talking on the phone, back when we used to talk on the phone. I had a teen line. And one of my friends was talking to me about Rent and how great it was, and literally could not stop singing the songs of Rent while we were having this conversation over the phone. And I didn't know anything. I didn't, the soundtrack wasn't out, and I didn't have context. He just kept saying, "You have to go see it. It's great. Oh my God, you're gonna love it. It's good. You're gonna love it. It's great."
Yeah, I always talk to people about musicals, and I'm like, "You should see this. You should see this." Like, I'm that person, honestly.
Yeah. So your introduction to Rent was through Tick Tick Boom, you said?
Yeah, but also like my mom, we were watching Tick Tick Boom, right? And it just came out on Netflix. I was like, "Oh, Andrew Garfield's in this. I like him because he's in Marvel. I like Marvel."
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll watch this. I also like musicals, so I was like, "Okay, I'll watch this." And then my mom was like, "Do you know that this is based on Jonathan Larson, who wrote this amazing musical?" And I was like, "I know a lot of musicals. What musical are you talking about? I probably know it." And she's like, "You've never seen it, actually." I'm like, "Really?"
Yeah.
She was like, "Yeah."
Not many have seen it.
Yeah, it was like Rent. We have to watch it with you over winter break. I'm like, okay. And this was the day I just got my wisdom teeth out, so I was a little loopy. I was like, all right. And so I watched it, and I was like, this musical is amazing. I feel like the songs just match the tone of what's going on. It's so the way that the songs just reflect what's going on in their lives, which is so powerful. And I really like the characters. My favorite character is Mark. I gotta say, he was the camera guy. I just really liked his relationship with everyone, and I felt like I saw myself with that character. I relate to that. I'm also nerdy. I like doing I like photography stuff, and I feel like if I was in the musical, I'd be Mark. And I just really relate to him, and I just thought it was so cool. Just the tone of the songs was perfect. The songs just sounded like they were meant to be there.
And again, going back to growing up with a kid where we listened to Hamilton again and again and again. But no, in a good way, that was the defining musical of your childhood. And so for me as a mom, it's what was cool and edgy when, I'm a little older than you, Darnell. So I was already in my 20s when Rent came out. You don't know how it will land for your child. Will it still feel relevant? Will it still feel cool and interesting? So it was really one of those hey, give mom a break. Let's put it on. Just indulge me. Check it out. So it was exciting for me that June enjoyed it so much. And then the fact that it was coming to Philadelphia and we're going to have the opportunity to actually see the production feels very magical.
Yeah. Rent is... the backdrop of Rent is most of the characters are struggling with HIV and AIDS. And at the time that comes out, or Rent goes on to Broadway, this is only a handful of years after the world has kind of stopped ignoring HIV and AIDS. They were calling it the gay plague for a while, governments were really thinking that this was an isolated issue. Some of the praise that Rent received was the fact that it sort of showed these characters getting through life instead of dying with AIDS. They were living with it. And it changed that whole mindset altogether. Now, that's what really resonated with a lot of people as well.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, I definitely, I'm part of the LGBTQ, community, and, it's, these things need to be talked about. And, I wasn't living through, that time period, but, it was scary. I remember my mom telling me about it.
Yeah.
People were scared to, have intercourse. That was just, real. And I'm
yeah.
Wow, I can't believe, I couldn't imagine living during that. And, the way that they showed it in Rent was, perfect. They showed how, the character's girlfriend died because of it, and he was grieving, and, he wanted to, love this other girl, but, he had AIDS, but then she ended up having AIDS, so it was fine. But, it was just, the real scaredness of it, you could feel it when you were watching it. Yeah.
It was something I really wanted to show June to remember, even though we have so far to go in terms of understanding so much and support for the LGBTQ plus community. Having grown up in the 80s, I lost several very important close mentors in my life to AIDS. One was a theater teacher when I was in high school who helped me a lot. One was a really cool person. I grew up in a small town in central Pennsylvania, and he had this wonderful hair salon and was just really encouraging and created a very different atmosphere than anywhere else, and was a very important person to me when I was your age, June. And then when I got to college, my first theater professor, whose name was Richard Toma, was an activist. He was part of ACT UP, and he brought his activism to us, and he was an amazing teacher. We didn't know he was sick, and he died from AIDS shortly after I had graduated. And so I think when I remember that time in history, I really remember those three people. And so it was the musical, looking at it from, 25 years later, also an opportunity to, bring some very important history to my kid to be able to talk about that.
Yeah, the friendship is definitely what helped them get through it.
Yeah.
What I noticed. The friendship, they're all friends. They couldn't have, got through it together if, they weren't friends, I feel like. It's just the friendship was really close in that. And Mark, he didn't have AIDS, but he was still, supporting. He put it in his documentary that he made. He's I don't have AIDS, but I want to support my friends who do. It was just the power of that friend group was just really strong, and that really inspired me. That was just really touching.
Yeah, and Mark, like many major characters in musicals and stories in general, is trying to find a purpose. And looking at his circle of friends, saw an opportunity to shine a light on something that was being ignored by caring for his friends at the same time. And it's so crazy to think about, the time that it's set in. Things were not as, accessible as they are now. I'm thinking early on, my first experience to Rent, I remembered I was at a college, and we had a guest come in who was living with AIDS. He showed us what they were calling the cocktail. And the cocktail was a series of 13 different medications that he took daily. And one pill was to take care of one thing. This other pill was to offset the side effects of another thing. And so on and so on. And explaining that whole thing, not a dry eye in the room. We just had no real understanding of how hard it was to live with it. And we didn't know what anyone was going through, and until we had that experience. And one of the things I noticed about that was that there wasn't, the media was creating such a fear of people living with HIV and AIDS. Don't go near them. Don't touch them. But in that room, in that space, I think we all gave him a great big group hug, towards the end, because it was there's no part of us that feels like we want to leave this room to protect ourselves. It felt like we wanted to protect him as much as we could. And I feel like that's, the message of Rent, No Day But Today, is about living in the present, living in the now, and really not taking it for granted. And the people around you are part of that as well. and very resonating. But it's not all sad. The musical, it is rock. It is high energy. There are moments about it to love, too. So you spoke about, you said that you probably resonate more with Mark. I was going to ask you earlier, if you were to play a character in Rent, which one would it be? And I feel like Mark is kind of like a Gryffindor.
I'm a Gryffindor.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like I'm a Gryffindor as well, and I was thinking about that, and I was like, it's so interesting how these characters are kind of lump all together. If you could break down these Broadway characters or these musical based characters into Harry Potter, houses, these main characters would probably be Gryffindors. But I felt that way about him. I think my interest in technology, started with film. I went to school for video production, and I've always owned a camera. So I periodically over the years have upgraded my cameras, and many times I would think like, is this an area I want to get into? And then I'd have to remind myself, you're already in this. What are you talking about? You got 2 cameras sitting over there, right? You bought it. You have the third one. You just bought another one. What are you talking about? Like, this isn't where you want to be. And there's so many lines from, there's so many lyrics from the songs that just resonate too, as well. As you're walking around, as you're going about your day, what songs from Rent kind of stick out for you, or what songs do you find are bouncing around in your head?
Well, I mean, I love like Mark's songs. Like, I'm a singer, so I can tell like they're all good. Okay, they're all good. They're really good. Like the movie, I haven't seen the play or like the musical, so like when I see it in person, I'm sure they're all good. It's just Mark. When he sings, I feel like it's just like he has this tone in his voice that's just really powerful. Like, I feel like
Tango Maureen.
I don't know. Like, my favorite song is like Tango Maureen. Like that Mark sings with the other like lady who's really good.
Oh yes, really like I'm sorry. Yes,
that song is great to me. Like, I just love like the dancing aspect. I just love like his voice and her voice kind of like colliding, and I don't know. It's just I really like when he sings. They're all really good. I like obviously the first song is a classic, Seasons of Love. Yeah, like you don't even have to like know Rent to just like sing that. To be honest, I sang that in elementary school. I like the second one, which is like, how do you document real life when real life getting
more like fiction each day.
Hey. Yeah, that one.
That's Rent.
Yep.
Yes. I would say I liked the song Halloween, kind of around the funeral.
Oh yeah, the funeral. Yeah. The funeral made me really anxious when I was watching it because they started fighting. I was like, can you guys stop fighting? Angel just like died. Yeah. Like they just started fighting. I was like, just give Angel like one day, please. Like,
and that's when Colin sort of burst in there.
I was like, stop. Like, Angel would not have won.
Yeah.
Yeah, as soon as you try to pick one, and then when I think about the movie, there are things that the movie, in my opinion, got right, but then, because there's clearly a budget here, it's kind of hard. Like if you've seen the stage production and the time frame, there's some things that don't necessarily fit. Like that is a pretty large space that they are, squatting in.
Yeah.
It's like they're on what appears to be the top floor of a factory,
Right.
And, of course it's hard to heat. It's huge,
Yeah, that's why I can't wait to take June that we're going to get to see the stage production. That's what stands out to me, Darnell. I remember in addition to the music, I think I was struck by the lighting, and the very minimal stage and staging and all these elements. I think you'll find June really enhance the music.
La Vie Boheme is also a great number.
Yeah.
That's kind of the culmination of everything. This is the way life is for them, and that it's a celebration of who they are, with that song, and that's a good moment. on stage as well as in the film. Do you know what a rent head is?
A rent what?
A rent head.
No.
So,
Oh wait, it's someone who's obsessed with it? Is that what it is?
yeah, it's like
Yeah,
a diehard fan.
It's starting to become that, I feel like. Yeah, I know
Yeah.
what it is. I thought you meant like literally like the rent thing. Like I don't
Yeah.
rent. I'm like 16. But yeah,
It's
rent
like-
head, like a theater head, a theater like that's like
Mhm.
obsessed with something, right?
Yeah, we call it theater nerd now. We generalize it. But yeah, a rent head was arguably a person who would camp out in front of the Nederlander Theater to get $20 rush tickets. And then it just sort of attached itself to the diehard fans of Rent. People of a certain age, I guess, would still call themselves rent heads.
Listen, Darnell.
So you-
Wait, I gotta tell Darnell, this kid, has seen Hamilton twice. The first time her uncle stood in line all day to try and get tickets, and June and June's dad got standing room, and they stood for the entire
Wow.
Hamilton.
And then
Worth it. Worth it.
Age 12?
yeah.
Totally worth it. I'll tell you a fun thing. I took a class at NYU called The Business of Broadway. There was a part of the class where we were going to take a field trip, and we weren't sure where we were going until we found out that we were going to the Richard Rodgers Theater to go backstage at Hamilton. And that was pretty exciting for us. This was before, a show had started that day. So we took a tour of the stage, and we were there while they were, doing like the tech checks. They were checking lighting, checking sound and everything. And just remember just being in a space like that. It was like, wow, I can only imagine, what it's like to be in all of that. And it sort of reminded me of the, I think it's the filmed version of the final performance of Rent, where they actually, they take the cameras backstage and they show you all the stars that have come backstage to meet with the cast, and they have signed the walls of the Nederlander. And it's just beautiful to think of like all the stuff that goes on behind the scenes. Like you don't see all of that, because one of the things I thought that was really good about Rent is that there was no curtain. The curtain didn't open and close. It didn't rise and fall. It just, they showed up. And once they show up, the audience gets settled, and Hamilton kind of does that too. And I really appreciate that, because it's like, it's not necessarily, and Mark is arguably speaking to us, in general, talking, at the very beginning. So it is sort of this breaking the fourth wall kind of thing, even though we're not responding. He is talking to us about what's going on, and it just starts. And you're like, everything's going on. It's just crazy. So, I love that about both of them. Lin-Manuel Miranda has often cited that Jonathan Larson's work, and particularly Rent, was a main source of inspiration for him, working on Hamilton as well. So it's just interesting to think of everything that came before it. Came after it. And you think about all the shows that would not have had an opportunity to ever be on Broadway if it wasn't for Rent. When you think of
wow. If there was no shows on Broadway, I'd be sad. That's what I'd live for, I guess.
And I think, it was also poignant to begin with watching Tick, Tick, Boom, and to realize, it was a tragedy. Jonathan Larson's death was a tragedy.
Yeah. When I heard that, I was like, he died right before, putting on the show. I'd be like, if that, he died right before putting on the show, that's I wonder how everyone was feeling. He spent all that time, and then, he died, but it was like a memorial. It was a really good memorial, I guess. Yeah.
Well, it felt like everybody had an even greater purpose. This wasn't just putting on a show, and the piece itself was not just putting on a show. It was a message to the world, and that tragedy that happened right as it was about to present itself to the world off Broadway at the New York Theater Workshop was, it is kind of interesting. You sort of wonder, if he didn't die the night before, where would it have gone?
Right.
Would we have seen it through different eyes? Would we have been more critical about it? Because
could have changed it or something.
Yeah, because over time, there's so many things. So for one, Jonathan Larson never had an opportunity to tweak it, to look at it and say, okay, now that I've seen it on its legs in front of this great audience, like, what are the adjustments that we can make? And so he never had that opportunity to do that. And so we often wonder, what would have happened if he had had that chance before it was transferred to the Nederlander.
That's so deep. I know, thank God, someone didn't take over, because if someone changed it, I feel like this is the right version. I feel like just this one, no tweaks. It's the right one. I'm glad that like one of his partners or something, if they took over it and changed it completely, that would be sad. When he died, he had to have worked with someone on it, right? And if they took it and they were like, let me redo all this, I'd be like, no, just he did it for a reason. Just, even he's dead, but he wants it like this. It's a memorial. Do not change it. Yeah. That would have been bad.
And, because it's, it's sort of enshrined as it was, we're sort of forced to make sense of it as it is. And this is kind of what we have to do as artists anyway. We have to sort of put it down and let it be what it is. It would have been the hope that anything he would have seen that he would have done differently, he would have put into future work. And that's the thing that, the world, unfortunately missed out on more work from Jonathan Larson. This was, arguably Tick, Tick, Boom was, not a lot of people knew about Tick, Tick, Boom, but Rent stood out, and it was right after that, they would be like, what else do you have? Please give us more, much like, Lin-Manuel Miranda with In the Heights,
Yeah, I was about to say, In the Heights, he had Hamilton, then he also has this, giant other hit. What if Jonathan Larson made, an even, bigger hit? We wouldn't know that.
There are a bunch of writers who are taking a cue from Jonathan Larson saying, we'll carry this torch for you.
Yeah.
We will move forward and reinvent this space. And, not that there was anything wrong with things as they were, but it was just times are changing, and embrace that change. And it was really hard to embrace that change for a long time. And we have these conversations now, whenever a play or a musical from many years ago is presented on one of these stages, the question is why? What is the urgency of this today? Why does this need to be produced again, for another time? Unless, we're fortunate with something like Shakespeare, where Shakespeare is often interpreted differently. It's set, there's so many different settings, where the story is being told, so we can do that. But, Rent, as it was, couldn't change and didn't change. I think there was a moment where, I think one of the tours was calling it Rent Now. And there were a couple of things that they would do. There's the line, that says, you can take the girl out of Hicksville, but you can't take the Hicksville out of the girl. Every time, whatever city it's in, they will change that line for the city, wow. for the city or the state that they're in. So it'll say if you're in Philly, you can take the girl out of Jersey, but you can't take the Jersey out of the girl. There were moments like that where they could, take a little bit of a liberty. But I can tell you, I've seen it many times. I was at the, I was talking to a woman who works at the Academy, the Kimmel Cultural Campus,
right?
About Rent, and she had said she had seen it 20 times, and
wow, 20
because 20 times because her father was a Rent head, and I thought that was awesome. That her connection was there
wild.
Because, I was thinking about how many times I had seen it. So I've seen it twice on Broadway. I saw it with Rush tickets. I saw it once at the Mann Music Center. I saw it at the Merriam Theater. And I believe I saw it at the... Oh, yes. And I did see it at the Academy of Music. I got so turned around because it's been... I felt like every few years I would have the opportunity to see Rent live again. And so I couldn't keep track. And even when the film came out, my best friend and I, we got preview passes, so we got to see it in the theater, and that was amazing. And then we saw the final Broadway production, that taping. We have that, and we've watched it many times, and it was to the point where my best friend knew me well until he saw Rent, and then he said, "I know so much more about you now because of Rent. Like I get you now." And it was like such a moment where it was just like, I can't believe he was able to see me through this experience and see like, oh, I get all of this about you now. So I guess there's something about a Rent head, that's pretty easy to see when when you're aware of the production itself. But it's just been an interesting ride to be able to experience this. And one of the things I also learned earlier is that sometimes people are very tied to the original cast. Like they can only see this production through the lens of the original cast performers. And I remember I was on the bus on my way to the Mann Music Center, and there was a group of girls. They were all friends, and they were coming from Jersey, and they were talking about Adam Pascal, who was the original Roger, and talking about, oh my God, Adam Pascal is so hot, he's so great. And I was kind of rolling my eyes, but then in that moment, I was like, I get it, but it's so much more for me. It is the work itself that I love and appreciate. I can see any version of this production and still have all the feels. Over the years, Temple Theater produced Rent a few years back, and that was a great performance as well. But yeah, there's so many different versions of it where you're just like, yeah, I love this. I love it as it is. Please put people together to, bring Rent to life.
Yeah.
However it is done. But there are some things that you sort of look for, like, in Seasons of Love, the character playing Joanne must hit the high note.
That was so cool. I remember watching it. I was like, oh my God. Like, she really hit that. I was like...
I think I saw one performance where it wasn't, where the octave had changed, but it still worked the way it was done. And the people around me were like, oh. Like,
you can't not.
You know what we came here for. Yeah.
It's like, I kind of hate people who like always like think like, we gotta see the original cast, it has to be the same. Like, just every actor is like out there trying to artist. Like, honestly, you're lucky you're seeing the show. Like,
yeah.
And I feel like every cast does a good job. Like, it's theater. These are talented people. I feel like who you see is like who you're gonna see, and they're gonna impress you. Okay, like they are. That's like the magic of it.
But it is kind of amazing to think about how many artists have put their stamp on Rent in some way, and they're still very much out in the world. Like, there are actors who, like Renee Elise Goldsberry.
I love her.
Yes, was Mimi, and also a Schuyler sister.
That's pretty cool.
That's like an amazing connection. And then when you think about it, you're like, oh my God, that's great. That's why I love her so much.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you have any friends that are in love with Rent like you are? And what are their thoughts on it?
So like, I'm new to Rent, but I'm like loving it every day, and like I'm eventually gonna become obsessed with it. Like, I kind of am now. It's just once I go see it, it's just.
But I think you're the first of your friends.
Definitely,
you have a few friends who also really love theater, but I observe for this generation, it's new.
Yeah, like I like Rent. I have friends who like musical theater, but I don't know if they like Rent because like my one friend doesn't really talk about it. Like, they talk about Newsies and stuff and other stuff. They don't really talk about Rant. I feel like I'm the only one who's brought it up.
Yeah.
So it's like,
it's new.
am I the only one who's like talking about it?
Yeah, they don't have a mom like me making them watch it.
One thing I've also noticed over the years is sometimes I have the opportunity to experience the soundtrack before I can see it live. How you build your idea of how you feel about it as you're just listening to the music, because the dialogue that connects each song to each other is not there, when you're just listening to the soundtrack. But then when you see it live, all these other pieces are sort of filled in, and then you just have a more full experience. I felt that way about Hamilton. I felt that way about Spring Awakening. I had listened to that music before I got to see it live, and there was so much, like, when you're seeing it, you're like, wow, I don't know that I made that connection, but I was still in love with this. I was still in love with this song at this moment on the track, but seeing it here, you're like, wow, this is so much deeper. It takes on so much greater meaning.
Yeah, I definitely have that experience too. I usually listen to like the soundtracks before I go to the musical. And it's like when I go to I listen to Hamilton. The first time I listened to Hamilton was on the bus, like going home from school in 5th grade. And I was like, this is really cool. And I started drumming on the seat, and I was like, okay. And I was like, I just thought it was cool. But then when I saw it, I was like, this is pretty different than what I imagined it would be. Like the spinning stage, I was like, there's a spinning stage? Like, I did not know that.
Yeah.
But just listening to it. Like, you have to, you can get a good experience out of, listening to it. But I feel like you actually have to be there, which is what you're saying.
A lot of these pieces, well, particularly Rent, is set in the East Village. If you're fortunate enough to walk around that neighborhood and you have Rent playing in your ears, it's kind of like you're transported, and you're sort of like, wow, oh my God, I just passed Avenue B. And that's what they were talking about in this piece. And you're like, I wonder, I don't have any context of what this was like at that time, but to play the music in your ears while you're walking on those very streets that inspired the piece, you're just thinking about like, wow.
Ooh, that's going to be an upcoming trip for us. Before the pandemic, we loved to visit a friend who lives in New York and walk around and be in the city. And yeah, when I was in my early 20s, I had friends who lived in that neighborhood, and it was rough, and it's very different, as June said, like going to New York. I mean, obviously there's spots in the city that might remind us of that more, but most of Manhattan is so different now.
So one other thing I've noticed is that a theater nerd isn't just a theater nerd, like you said, you are a Marvel fan, so you're a Marvel nerd too.
Yes.
It looks like you're wearing a jersey.
Eagle.
I'd say you're a sports nerd, or are you just a Philadelphia fan?
Sports,
Philly.
Yeah.
I know. I said before, someone asked me, are you a fan? And I said, I'm more of a Philadelphia fan.
Yeah.
I feel like I support the home teams because it's my hometown. But I can go to a game and really enjoy myself and really root for the home team, of course. But I'm not a season ticket holder. The way I sort of devour theater, I devour sort of nerd culture in general as well too. I'm a Marvel fan as well. You can't see it, but I have a fairly large Pops collection.
I have a Funko Pops on my Marvel Funko Pops on a shelf in my room. I just keep there.
I have one. You can't see it. Oh, you can see it behind me.
Oh yeah, there's
cool.
Hedwig there. I don't. So it was an exclusive. I found this Harry Potter Hedwig. It's huge.
Yeah, but June's very into music, into Marvel. Used to be as a younger kid, very, very into Harry Potter.
And then I have
Lafayette.
And I have a Lafayette as well. That was a fairly new one I got for Christmas. Yeah, I collected so many of them, and now they're surrounding my my studio, my workspace. So I also remember growing up. Oh, so I'll tell you another fun thing. This isn't about me, but I am a huge Rent fan. I actually auditioned for Rent. But I also did see Rent in Atlantic City at the Tropicana. Long time ago. Like, I could not keep track of the many tours that there were.
I know. You've seen it a ton of times.
Yes, I have.
This is only my second time.
Nowhere near as many as so many people I've spoken to, but I felt like altogether, I think I'd probably say 7 or 8.
Yeah, sounds that way.
Because I had to, like, it was a total leap back in time to think about. I was like, all right, think of the first one. So there's some fun things. I had to look them up to remember. There are a lot of references, cultural references to Rent. So the creators of South Park, had a animated film. Well, it's not animated, but sort of a claymation kind of film called Team America, World Police. And, they did a parody of Rent called Lease. And it was fun, but if you know South Park and you know the Book of Mormon, it was very offensive. But it was.
One, so
I'm obsessed with the soundtrack. I want to see it.
Yeah. So look it up. Team America, World Police. It's a little crass, but it's good. And then I thought about other cultural references, thinking about the nerd culture of it all. The series Riverdale had the characters of Josie and the Pussycats did a version of Out Tonight.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so I think that was in 2017.
Probably.
So
this one of the shows,
go to CW, check that out. And then there was a series of parody albums called Forbidden Broadway. And Forbidden Broadway did a handful of songs from Rent that were hilarious. They had a parody of Rent called Rant. And there was a parody of Out Tonight called Ouch, They're Tight. It was talking about Mimi's outfit was, that cat suit it looked very tight, but I'm sure it was very comfortable. It was costumey, but it was kind of fun. And they also did a parody of Today for You, Tomorrow for Me. It was called Too Gay for You, Too Hetero for Me. And there was so much fun. And so my partner and I, we listened to them today. I was like, oh my God, I forgot about these. And
that's fun.
Yeah, so Forbidden Broadway, you can find those. They're really fun. But so I'm excited. I'm excited about Rent, there's something about just being around a bunch of Rent heads. I feel, I guess it's the same way, just being in a theater. It's like one of the best places, if not the best place to be. I've never felt more safe than I've ever felt in a theater. Whether the storylines are designed to challenge our thinking, if we are inspired by what we're experiencing on stage, if we are saddened by what we experience on stage, it is all a great experience. And to be able to shut out the world for a period of time, especially in a musical, 2 hours and 35 to 45 minutes, where we can shut out everything else and really just escape into the story that's being told on stage, that is an experience that cannot be, it's hard to recreate on a screen. We've been trying to do it, virtually, during the pandemic, and some have found creative ways, but it does not replace what it's like to be in the theater, in that space, unwrapping your candy before it's too late, silencing your mobile devices, getting in the mindset for this experience, looking over heads if you're short. It's been great to be in these theaters and be surrounded by a lot of people who are not necessarily spaced. We're still wearing masks, but I think the theater community gets it.
Yeah.
Like, what do we have to do? Because we are not going to theater.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's always been a safe space. I'm looking forward to this as well.
So
and
now
it'll be exciting.
This is a new generation of rent heads, I think. At least we got one here with June.
Yeah.
And it's, this was such a pleasure to get to talk to you about Rent today.
Yeah, definitely. And since you're a theater lover, if you ever want to come back and talk to me about some other piece of theater, I would love that. I think that would be great. Just two nerds nerding out about some theater.
We'll start now very briefly. June, as we think ahead to future and kind of work, just beginning to imagine. We have talked about an interest in podcasting. So there's definitely a lot of connections.
I think everyone should have a podcast. It is so easy to do.
Yeah.
If you have a device that can record your voice, do it. And they only evolve over time. If you don't know how to start, record yourself saying, "I want to do a podcast, but I don't know what about." And just talk about not knowing what to talk about. And eventually it will it'll figure out what it's meant to be. Man,
well, this was a pleasure.
Yes. So it was really great to talk to you. It was great to talk to you both, especially you, June. Thank you so much. I thought it was such a great idea to talk about two different generations talking about the same musical and how over the years it can still manage to resonate, even though, when it was released, it meant something. It meant something different, but now it's like a time capsule. You sort of look back and it takes on new meaning. And there's so many people who grew up with this. Like, everyone who has experienced it has been on this ride with Rent for over 25 years.
Yeah.
And it's just crazy to think about. 25 years of your life has gone by.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's and we're still here. So yeah. No day but today.
Thank you, Darnell.
But Gabby and June, it was great to chat with you about Rent, and we'll see you in the theater. Want to get involved with Broad Street Review? Head on over to our website at www.broadstreetreview.com and click Get Involved at the top. While you're there, help keep us running and click Donate to find out how. Connect with us on social media, on Facebook and Twitter at BroadST Review. Thank you for helping to keep the conversation going.